Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I understand that some of you are joining us early in the morning, some of you in the afternoon, some of you in the evening. My name is Bigati Devote, and I am a member of teaching staff here at Cody Institute at St. Francis Xavier University. My area of focus is peace building and conflict transformation. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of Mi'kma'ki people. The territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq and people first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. We stand here with the joy of a beautiful sunny winter afternoon here in Antigonish on Mi'kma'ki ancestral land, with full acknowledgement of the responsibility we have to be thankful and protect the natural world with all of its beauty, and also find a way for sustainable peace and true reconciliation. It is indeed the responsibility of each one of us that true and meaningful reconciliation takes root on this land. Today, we have the privilege of having my new friend. I had the good fortune of meeting Tatiana while participating in a course entitled National Dialogue and Peacemaking from Conflict to Consensus, facilitated by Burgo Foundation based in Berlin, Germany. Certainly, the topic is specific to Colombia, but the need for dialogue and civic discourse is not exclusive to Colombia. It's in fact global. We live in a time when political expediency is overriding basic decency. Hate, polarization, and dehumanization are infecting the political discourse, dividing societies between us and them. Confronting these challenges of our time requires wisdom. Hate cannot be overcome by hate. Civic discourse and dialogical engagements are needed today more than any other time in human history, so that we can humanize each other, we can recognize each other's humanity with that African philosophy of Ubuntu. We say a person is a person through another person or through other persons. Now, let me introduce a brief bio of Tatiana. Tatiana Mosquera.
Hi.
Hi, Tatiana.
I'm so sorry. I have a problem with, I don't know, with the computer, but right now I'm okay.
All right, good. Let me go through your brief bio and then I will yield the microphone to you. Tatiana Mosquera Angulo is the director of the Strengths Capability Center, Transforma at Fundaci Ideas para la Paz, a Colombian think tank and do tank, which is, we will share the web link and the website later. She accompanies and supports the FIP team in the design of educational experiences and facilitation of dialogue processes, and faces methodological challenges in an innovative way. Tatiana has 20 years of experience in education, peace building, dialogue, and direct work with stakeholders. She has also been involved in numerous projects related to strengthening capacity and research, especially in social and community projects within fragile contexts in Colombia and Latin America. Her academic journey is a testament to her commitment to continuous learning and professional development. Tatiana holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and anthropology from Universidad de los Andes in Colombia. She further honored her skills with a specialist degree in regional development management from the same university and a master's degree in collaborative dialogic practice. Tatiana, thank you and welcome virtually to St. Francis Xavier University, Cody Institute, and our Antigonish community. We are delighted to have you with us and share your insight about national dialogue and peace building efforts of your country, Colombia. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you
Good.
so much for this invitation. I'm super excited to be with you guys. I'm so sorry to I was ready 10 minutes ago and everything was going super good, and then something happened with my computer, and I think that's something that happened here in Colombia a lot. That are you think that you're prepared for everything in peace building, and then everything changes, and all your plans are different. So it's something that we're used to. So I'm going to begin like a presentation, and I hope that I'm going to try to talk as good English that as I can. And also, if you don't understand or my English is not that good, let me know, and I will try to do better. Okay. And also, I want you guys to feel this like a conversation. So at the end, if you have any questions, I'll be delighted to ask. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to talk about peace building in Colombia, and as I have like more experience learning about my country than anything, and I really want you to know that this country has like a lot of history, and the most important part is like in the center there are always like the people that we that live here, and also all the people that come here to Colombia to help in peace building, that is very important. And Colombia, it's like a paradox because we have like this is like a little map. Colombia is in South America, and we have like a lot of amazing stuff. We have like two seas. We have like coast in the Atlantic Ocean, but also in the Pacific Ocean. We are like the most wonderful country. We are the second country that have more biodiversity in the world. And for example, we have like a lot of different types of climates, but also like we have like a lot of animals, and we have like a lot of natural resources. So we always say that Colombia is a paradox because like it's the paradise, but we have like a lot of social issues, but also like a lot of violence here in Colombia, and it's something that we really think about. And I work in a think and do tank that it's called Fundación Ideas para la Paz. In English is Ideas for Peace Foundation, and I'll be talking a little more about that. So we always are thinking about that, and how like an amazing country that has like all the items that you see in the books, that we can be like a very development country, but we are not. And also we have like a lot of indigenous and like knowledge, and we are not like we are not embracing that. So that's something that happens a lot here in Colombia. So I wanted you to like to know where my country is. We are in the south, or we are in South America. We have like borders with Venezuela, with Peru, with Ecuador, also with Brazil, and with Panama. And so we are we have like all the right things to be like like all the people to be like in equal conditions. So a little more about the context is, for example, in the region we have like our macroeconomic numbers are very stable. We're not like a rich country, but if you compare with other countries in South America and in the Latin American region, we have like better macroeconomic numbers and a lot of stability. But also we have like the highest inequalities in South America. Right now we are like fighting this horrible spot with other countries like Venezuela, but we have like a lot of inequalities. And here in Colombia, what happened like from the first time like the Spanish people came to colonize us, what happened is that a lot of people had like a lot of money, and there's like a big hole between those people that have a lot of money and the other people. So we have a lot of inequalities. Gender inequality, it's a very hard part of our history. And also like the indigenous communities are like we recognize the indigenous community, but for example in Canada we see like a lot of good examples of how we treat our indigenous community. And in 1991 in the national constitution we recognize those rights that they have. And but we are not, like for me for example, I'm like a mix of Spanish heritage but also indigenous heritage. And for my family it was not that clear, the indigenous part, so it's something that every Colombian has. Also we have like we have like a stable democracy in compared to other countries in Latin America. If you see the history, a lot of Latin American countries has a lot of dictatorships, for example, in Argentina, in Uruguay, also right now in Venezuela. But in Colombia, we have never has only one time that was a little time in our history. We don't have we never had like a dictator, and that's something that really shows our democracy. Like we have a stable democracy and we respect the institutions, and that's something that is very good. But also we have like an endemic violence that I don't know if you know, but we have like more than 9 million victims of our armed conflict, that it's an intern conflict between a lot of guerrillas or guerrillas and armed groups inside our country that are our own. And like they fight with the national army. At the beginning they have like a political point of view of like they want to have like for the people to have more rights and everything. But what we have seen as a think tank is that from that point till now these armed groups has been like more less political viewing and more of the money and the narcotráfico, like the drug cartels are involved. So there's like a lot of violence and a lot of victims that are civils that are suffering. And something that really like it's sad but it's like amazing is that if you ask any Colombian, we all know or we have been part of this conflict. We have like our families have been victims in some sort of way, and that's super sad. And it's something that really unites us. But also right now we're really polarized about, for example, the peace building and the peace building processes. So that's some of the example of the paradox. Also, we have like a lot of institutions here in Colombia. We are like we have like only like a government that it's in the center, but also have like a lot of regions, and all the regions are super different. But we have like a institution that are stabilized. And if you compare our history, for example, with some histories of African countries that have internal conflicts that are similar to Colombia. Right now in Colombia, we have like good institutions and we have like good laws. Our constitution, it's a good constitution, but we have like low effectiveness in the action. So at the end, it's not that good for the people. Also, we are the second country in biodiversity. And we are among the 12 most mega diverse nations in the planet. And that's amazing. For example, and I hope that every one of you can come to Colombia and see, we have like a lot of different climate, like weathers, and also we have like a different animals, and we have like a lot of biodiversity. And what we want is to protect the biodiversity, but also we are like fighting because some enterprises, some are abroad, and some business sector is from Colombia. They want to destroy sometimes the mega, like the biodiversity. So we have like those type of paradoxes. And also because we have like high ranges of poverty. And for example, the peasants doesn't have like the land for them. We have like a lot of the deforestation, because you need to have like land to provide yourself. So that's something that you're mega diverse. You really are trying to protect the country, but also it's like the deforestation. It's very, very hard here in Colombia. And another paradox that happened here in Colombia is that, I don't know if you know, but in 2016 we signed a peace agreement with one of the biggest guerrillas that we have, that it's called FARC. And what happened is that when we signed that and they ended like the fighting, of course the FARC people went to other places that are not where they live, and they protect the jungle and they protect the forest because they knew, like some of them knew that it was very important. So after this peace agreement signing, like the deforestation went crazy because no one, nor the army nor the government, they didn't protect the jungle. So it's something that it's it's a paradox, because it's super good that they are not fighting anymore, but in some places in Colombia, like the jungle and the nature are suffering because no one is like taking care of them. And also, here in Colombia, for example, last year, we made like a survey asking a lot of Colombians that if they want dialogue in their life. And all the people say dialogue is the best, we need to dialogue, and we have like a culture of dialogue. And we have, for example, right now we have more of 200 dialogue initiatives in all the country, and we know that it's important. But we have like a huge polarization between people that really like, for example, dialogue, peace agreement, and peace building, and there's like another part of the country that really doesn't like peace processing and dialogue. So it's super it's a paradox that we know, and we have a culture of dialogue, and it's impressive. For example, when you go to all the regions in Colombia, there's a lot of people that are working in dialogue, and we really think that it's the way to do it. But we're a very polarized country, and I think that it's something that it's globally. I don't know what is happening in Canada, but for example, what is happening in the US right now with Trump and everything, for us is it's something similar, because it's a more progressive side of the society and a more conservative society that doesn't want changes. And right now, we have like a president that sold that he's going to change and have like a good changes. But what we have seen is that they didn't have like the knowledge to do like a lot of stuff in the day to day, in the daily basis. So we are like suffering um with a lot of their decision making. And like the last paradox, so you can understand how complex Colombia is that right now our president is an ex-combatant of one of the guerrillas that demobilized in 1990, that it was a group that it was called the M19, and our Presidente Petro, was one of the fighters in the M19. So we are like so capable of like forgiveness and reconciliation, but also a lot of people is like, I don't want an ex-guerrillian to be my president. So it's super difficult, and we are super complex. So that's something that I really wanted to share with you. And one last thing, that in Colombia we really believe in peace, and we have been like struggling with the armed conflict. uh, and right now we have like in all our history, it has been like 12 peace processes with different smaller groups, bigger groups of armed people, but all internally. And the biggest one was designed in 2016, no, with FARC, that it was the biggest guerrilla. And also right now we have like a very big problems with drug cartels, that they are like transforming and making everything harder. So that's something that it's Colombia, and that's why it's so difficult to to understand and to work here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about dialogue here in Colombia, and something that it's like near our hearts, that it's in 2019 and 2021. It was very it's an example of national dialogue, that it's a methodology that it's very impressive in other countries, but here in Colombia it didn't work. And it's something that I really like to tell the story about a mistake, because I think that we can learn a lot. And if you're peace builders and you are really interested in this, you can learn from this mistake that we made in 2019, 2021. And it's in 2019 here in Colombia, we have like it was after this peace agreement signing, and everyone was with a lot of hope that everything will change. And we have like a lot of economic problems, and here like the young people were a very important part of this moment, because they were asking a lot of changes in how the government used to work. And it's something that it has never happened, because we were so afraid about the war, and because we have like our armed conflict has been for more than 50 years, and it's like a lot of time like fighting each other, you know. So in this moment, because the peace agreement was like very new, it was like an opportunity to go out on the streets to talk about our issues. Because before 2016, because the guerrilla was there, we were very afraid to ask for change. So in that moment, of course, you know that here in Colombia, we try to make like a national dialogue with a lot of with different topics that were very near our hearts. And the government in that time, the president was Presidente Duque. He was like, okay, I wanted to stop like the people like making strikes, because the cities will like stop because of that. And they opened a national dialogue with a lot of different tables so they can talk. So one table was about growing equity, other was against corruption, because here in Colombia we have like a lot of difficulties with corruption. Another one was education, environment, peace, and strengthening institutions. So this government asked my like the organization that I work, that it's called Fundación Ideas para la Paz, to help them in the national dialogue, in the table of peace. So the Fundación Ideas para la Paz, as I say, is a think and do tank that has 25 years working here in Colombia. And what we do is research about peace, but it's more an action research focus. So we not only like read books and see what is going on in the like in the academia. We really go to like we develop projects with communities in a lot of places in Colombia, so we can understand better what is happening, and how we can like help and like to work with them. So that's why they choose us to like with this initiative. It's super important that we know that the government that I'm talking about was um, against the peace agreement. It was like, no, that's something that it's not good, and it was a very polarized moment. So it was very hard for us to be part of this table. So this national dialogue, it was something that it was after like a success in the dialogues of the peace agreement, but we changed the government, and this government was okay, do whatever, like yes, 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 we know that peace building is important, so sit and talk. And it was like a horrible a horrible process, because for example they don't have like the objectives very clear, and in national dialogue you need to have these objectives very clear, and to know that it's more like a type of dialogue like negotiation, because you need to make some things that are not that like if you that you need to understand that it's something that is going to take time, and you need to have the objectives in your head. The second thing that it was not that good, it was the incapability of listening to needs and realities. In this table, the government was it was more of a checkpoint and not a process that they really wanted to do. So they don't listen to others, and if you are going to be peace builders, it's something that you really need to do. For example, in what I do, you need to understand what is happening with the other person, or the community, so you can do better research and better actions for them. The third point that it was very hard for this process is was the methodology was not clear. So us as FIP trying to facilitate this dialogue, but the methodology was not very clear. And the government in that point was like, no, 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 the methodology is not important. We only want you to sit and talk, and that's it. And in Colombia, we have like a very important problem, is that in Bogota, where I live, is like the capital of Colombia. And here are all the institutions, and all the decisions are made in Bogota. So the regions or the municipalities in the like in the other parts, they feel like you don't listen to them. So that's something that it's very hard for us, because we are like a more centralized country, and it's very, very tough, because it's impossible to hear everyone. And the fourth is that in these type of dialogues, that if your peace builders are going to face them, you need to be very careful about who you invite. And if you are going to invite participants, you need to invite all of the important participants. And here we feel like the government invited only the people that is not against them. So it was like a very difficult dialogue that at the end nothing happened. And I think that it was a mistake, because at the end everyone was like nothing happened, and it was a horrible process. And what happened about, and something that it was not that is that they, like, we did that for like 5 months, and then pandemia came, the COVID-19 came. So everything was like, no, it stopped, and they never talked to us or to like the people of what is happening next. So these mistakes are something that we really understand, that it's good to to not be doing that, and we learn from our mistakes about this participation in the in a type of national dialogue that it was nothing like national dialogue. But the good part of that is that we made like a lot of other projects and other possibilities and initiatives, because in Colombia we're super resilient, and we really want to appreciate what is happening and to learn from our mistakes. So in FIP we made like a lot of projects, like collecting all these learnings about this horrible experience in the national dialogue. And we beginning to work with indigenous communities in a part north of Colombia that it's called La Guajira. And we have like been doing like dialogues with them and learning about the process of dialogue in the indigenous communities. And it was because we met someone from La Guajira in this process. So you like the message is, sometimes you think that everything is like horrible, but something will be brighter, and you can meet someone in the process. And also we have like a very good experience with young people, like hearing them and making some spaces of listening. And what we do is like we go to a lot of places in Colombia, and we bring the congressmen and women to really hear the young people. And that was because we see this national dialogue as a failure in the listening part. So that's something that we do. And also we understand that it's super important for peace building in Colombia and other countries, that you need to be more collaborative, because sometimes you fight with other organizations for money or for recognition, and at the end it's not that good. So I think that that was something very good that we learned from that bad experience. So I wanted to do this presentation like talking to you about the difficult context in Colombia. I wanted to make you an example of real peace building and what it's looked like, that it's not all beautiful and flowers and unicorns, and it's but the good part is that in every mistake that you made in peace building, if you really are like trying really hard, you learn something and then you can do better your job to make things better for the people in your country or in other countries. And I wanted to like to find to end this presentation with some learnings about like the experience that I have been working in Colombia in peace building and in a lot of dialogues in education. So these are like the top 10 learnings that I think that will be useful for you. The first is that in every peace building process, you need to have a very clear methodology. And I think that that's something that, for example, sometimes you think that it's not important, and it's super important to know what are you going to do and to discuss and to talk with the communities that you are going to work about which methodology is better for them. So listen to them is super important. The second is that when you are a peace builder, you always need to plan, but not only like to do the planning part, but you need to plan, act, learn, adapt, and repeat this process. Because sometimes and when you go to work, sometimes the organization that give you the money are very focusing on the planning, and they don't allow you to adapt some of the actions, and that's something that is very bad. And my my advice is you need to adapt everything, because you need to know what are the contexts. And for example, in Colombia, because everything that I was talking to you about, because it's a paradox, you don't know tomorrow what is going to happen. So you really need to plan, act, learn, adapt, and repeat that all your life. The third part is the importance of language, and language creates the like reality. So if you are a polarized society as like Colombia, we have been searching about how the language, it's like a tool that can build a better society, or can via like a weapon. So language is very, you need to be very careful about how you use language. The fourth is that in peace building, if you wanted to things to be perfect, this is not the type of career that you want to to address, because nothing is perfect, and you need to embrace that, and to do the best that you can, but you're going to make mistakes. The context is not going to be perfect. The other thing that you need to be is very flexible. In Colombia, we have like a bamboo that it's called guadua, that it's a plant that it's amazing, because you can it's very flexible, but also um it's amazing, that plant. And I think that you need to be very flexible as the plants, and you need to adapt, and you need to learn like if you were a plant. And the other thing is that when you are working with people, you really need to address like what are the rules that are going to like, you need to have the rules very clear. And I think that it's something that we never like do. And for example, in the first part of my professional experience, I never like sit and say, okay, how are going to work, what are the rules? And I think that it's something that it's very important to do when you work as a peace builder. The other thing is dialogue, and every process, but especially dialogue, are process, so it takes time. And dialogue is a tool that it's really amazing, but you need to understand that it's not, that it's something that you can use so in some cases, but it's not the only tool that you have. But I love dialogue, and I think that you can like change your life and the life of others if you really like use it as a potent tool. The other learning that I wanted to share, like in peace building, is super important to recognize emotions. In Colombia, I remember that before, like when I started my professional career, emotions were very bad. You can't like show your emotions, and I think that it's because we suffer so much about the armed conflict that emotions were like a second line because you need to live, you need to survive. But right now, I think that it's super important to recognize the emotions and the well-being of the team, because you work here and you see like a lot of hard stuff, and you really need to have something for your well-being. So right now we're obsessed about how to take care of the teams and also the people that we work with. And also is that here in Colombia we really need to identify how what are the things that we have in common, and if you are united, we're more strong than ever. But I think that we are super far away from that, and we're trying to understand how to connect each other. So what I do in Fundación Ideas para la Paz is to design and implement methodologies, different type of methodologies with a lot of communities to identify this point of unity and how to connect as human beings, and also how to make the life of the people better, and I think that we have learned a lot about how the context and everything it's mixed. So I think that okay, perfect. uh, so thank you so much. I hope that you have like any questions, or if you want, we can like have like a conversation. These are my information. I will send you the presentation, and also whatever you need. If you want to come to work in Colombia, we have like a lot of work to do. And if you like research and action, like we will be very pleased to work with you guys. So I'm going to not share anymore and see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. You have given us a lot to digest, and also you have given us the challenges and opportunities of national dialogue and peacemaking and peace building in different contexts. But your Colombian experience and practical work you have done is an asset to every community struggling with how to find a way out of a very entrenched narratives and entrenched realities of violence and bloodshed. As I said that my introduction, the need for dialogue is not limited to Colombia. Today, the entire world needs civic discourse, humanization, understanding of our relationship with each other. But what you have reflected on is that when we are thinking about peace building and national dialogue, what are the key aspects we have to focus on? What are the issues we have to navigate? What are the cultural, social, emotional, psychological frameworks we have to look for? And it's very important at this juncture, at this moment, we learn from each other. We learn from different countries' experiences, knowledges and skills and culture, so we can find a way to address these complex issues. And I'm grateful for your presentation. Let me begin with the question, if you don't mind, Tatiana. My question to you is this. When you talk about national dialogue in Colombian context, you said in 2019, the national dialogue failed, and you have identified why the national dialogue failed. Can you elaborate a little further on that? What are the specific points why the national dialogue didn't succeed in Colombia? And what are the shortcomings of that process? And what are the specific lessons Colombia learned from that failure in order to move forward with new national dialogue framework?
The first thing that I wanted to address is the political, like there's no political willing. I don't know if that's if it's in español is voluntad política, like the president in that moment was like saying that he really wanted to do a national dialogue, but at the end he doesn't want it. He didn't want it because it was not a very good political move for in his eyes, but at the end he used, I think that he used and abused like the phrase national dialogue, and he was like, no, this is the methodology that I wanted to use, but the government didn't really understand what was national dialogue, and they didn't wanted to do that. They was, it was like a facade, like something like something it was not taking it was not taking seriously. The government didn't take seriously the national dialogue. So that's something that it's very important, that if you're going to address the national dialogue, you need to treat this methodology with respect. And I think the government didn't respect the national dialogue. They only wanted to do something like the international community were happy about, and also something like for the citizens in Colombia to be more quiet about. So the first thing is the political willing to do something, and it was like the first thing that it was very bad. The second thing is that I really know that the government didn't understand the implications and all the little details of what is national dialogue, and they only use the name. And because we study what is national dialogue, we talk with other countries to understand better. We know that they don't do that to do the due diligence about what is the national dialogue. So the second thing is that the government didn't knew about the national dialogue, and I think in some cases the facilitator like us, we try to say, okay, you're not doing national dialogue, and there's yes, we're doing national dialogue. And I think that they use this word because the international community like put money on that, and they needed that phrase to be like the framework. And the third thing that is that we were not ready to do a national dialogue, and I think that it's very important to know if a society is ready for national dialogue. And I think it's not for every society to do national dialogue. So what is happening is that right now we're more careful about the language that we use and the methodology that we use. And that's something that is super important. For example, with the peace agreement of the 2016, they called that process the Havana dialogues, because the dialogues between the government and FARC were in Havana, in La Habana, in Cuba. And if technically you're very aware of the difference between dialogue, negotiation, conversation, what happened in Havana were a negotiation. They were not a dialogue process. It was a negotiation. And I think that's something that was that backfire us, because a lot of people that are against this peace process, they say no, but it's if it's a dialogue, why are they gain stuff? Why are not they in the like in the jail? So I think that language is super important, and you really need to understand that negotiation is something, dialogue is something, and national dialogue it's another thing. So right now in Colombia, there's not like a national dialogue like going on, but I think that it will be great of what happening in some areas in Colombia. And we're trying to do like more like regional dialogues because are smaller and with a smaller system, because I think that the national dialogue with the methodology, you need a lot of political willing to do it. And here in Colombia, we don't have it. But I know that right now we are more aware, and we are more focusing on not doing that kind of stuff. Mhm.
Thank you, Tatiana. Any other question online? No, let me follow up what you just said. The use and abuse of the term dialogue in form of language as well as conceptually, and also the political calculation that involves when national dialogue is needed and when national dialogue is not needed, because the outcome and the process is often for politicians seen through political lens, not the greater good, not actually working out the challenges what Colombia was facing. So when you look at that kind of lack of, us, to use your word, lack of political will to engage in that kind of national dialogue, for NGOs and organizations like you, how does that affect your work and how does that make your work challenging and difficult?
That's a super good question, because okay, for NGOs like mine, we have like a challenge that it's very hard. Like you need to, of course, like to get money from projects. So sometimes like national, like international cooperation, because here in Colombia, NGOs like mine, we finance ourselves with projects with international aid. For example, we like receive money from USAID, that it's the national, like the international cooperation of USA, but also we have like been giving money from Canada and other countries. And I want to address something that it's not very clear if you're not working in this type of NGOs. But for example, sometimes this the money that came from other countries that are not Colombia, sometimes they like say you need to do national dialogue, for example, because it's a very good methodology, and we have like the methodology, and sometimes it's only because they're obsessed with their methodology, but it's not because we're ready for that. And I think that something like that happened in Colombia. So it's not only the political will of the government, it's also the political interest of the people that gave us money to do stuff, that sometimes it's very hard for us to be like open and say, okay, that's not something that we're going to do. And sometimes you stop, you do, it's not that you do bad stuff, but you know that it can be better. But sometimes the donors are not like very open to change the methodology. So sometimes, for example, with some countries in Europe, and of course the USA, they are super obsessed with some methodologies that they invented, and also they have been doing, for example, in Africa and in other countries. And they say, okay, I give you money, but you have to do this methodology, and you can't like adjust in your context. And we know our context. We know what it's good and what's not. So that's something that I wanted to address. And the other part is that for us it was very difficult. For example, if that president like literally like call my boss and say, okay, I want you to be in this table, my boss has to say yes, because of all the political implications that because you need to do incidents and to do the advocacy. So for NGOs, it's very hard to maintain to be like our own interested, and that was hard in that point, and it's something that, for example, my boss say, okay, I never wanted to be part of this again, because I feel like that we lost more than we gained, and it's something that it's hard. And and I think that it's very important to recognize that every actor in a system has interest and also has like agendas, and you need to address your agenda. And it's something that we have been like really embracing like the last years. And it's when you go to another community, the first thing that we do is to put our agendas in the table. So we're very transparent with the communities, because what the government sometimes, or an international donor did with us, we have been doing with our communities, because we like, okay, this is the project and you need to do whatever I wanted you to do. And I think that it's something that it's not ethical, and we need to address this type of topics in the peace building processes, like the
Mm, mm.
political agendas and you're interested. I think that that's super important. Mhm.
Thank you, Tatiana. There are more questions coming. What you are alluded to is there is no free lunch, as Americans would say. The same people will give you money and say, do this, otherwise, there's a problem. But at the same time, they say there is no free lunch, strings attached. So,
That's true.
question
Yeah,
from here.
hello, my name is Marie. You said that the process has failed in 2019 because you were not ready. Can you elaborate what you meant?
So our country was not ready because we are super polarized. We are still polarized, but our country was more polarized because of the peace process of 2016, and that divide our country in two. And I think that before a national dialogue, you need a more cohesive country, not like the perfect paradise, but you need to be more prepared. And if you have like a very polarized country, the national dialogue is not, for me, it's not the methodology that you need. Maybe you need to do more of a negotiation, but not a national dialogue, because you need to like to put, for example, a very specific group that are a lot of people identify in this group. And if you have like a polarized group, it's something that it's in your head and in your ADN, DNA. So if you're never going to pick the right people in the commission, and for example, in Colombia, that happened. That for first we were not ready in order because we're too polarized, and I think that you need to be less polarized. Also, the government were not ready to hear what others needs to say, and I think that's something that it's we were not ready. And the third is that, for example, in the peace building community, we were very sad about that government that didn't believe in peace. So before the national conversation about peace, for example, you really need to have like a process of forgiveness between like people and sectors. If not, I think national dialogue will be a failure. And also, we were not ready because a lot of people that needed to be in the table were not there. And the third is that we didn't understand fully the methodology, and I think that the methodological part was, so if you are like, the national dialogue, it's the key, it's super important. The first thing that you need to do is to understand the methodology, and not only the facilitators but all the people that are involved there, because there's like a lot of rules that you need to address. There's like a lot of details that you need to understand, and I think that we were like far, o sea, we didn't knew anything. Right now, we have been like taking classes about national dialogue and other type of methodology so we can be ready. But right now, and I think that we are not still there. We need other type of methodologies, but not national dialogue.
Thank you, Tatiana. The question of timing, you're talking about when is national dialogue appropriate? In case of Colombia, as you said, in time of extreme polarization, what is needed is not national dialogue. Maybe sit down and find common ground through negotiation, mediation, conflict resolution, so on and so forth. So to use national dialogue in that context is to expect the impossible. So
Yes.
that's something other countries need to learn. We have a question from online.
And one last thing is that it's about, of course, timing, but also I think that our national dialogue, you have like too many topics. We have like 10 tables, but 10 tables, like we were like overwhelmed. what I see is that, and in a national dialogue, you have to have one topic, maybe two, but 10 topics, it's impossible because you have like 10 different processes at the same time. So I think that in that case, less is more, and it's difficult to understand because as a citizen, you want all the solutions at the same time, but it's not happening. So you need to be very specific about the topic that you need to address.
Right. We have a question from online participants. It says, here in Ethiopia, we are also trying to conduct the national dialogue. What shall be done to make the national dialogue to be free from influence of the leading political party?
That's a super good question because that's a mistake that we make. And I think that the best part is that the leader of the national dialogue is like the leader or the methodologist are a third party, that it's not the government. But that's hard because of course the government want to have the control. So I think that it's super important to have like a third person or a third organization that really helps you. For example, here in Colombia, the UN tried to do that part, but they it was not it it was very difficult. But I think that it's super important that someone else, that it's not the government, has like the power of the methodology and the power of the identification of the participants. In Colombia, one of the mistakes is that the participants were chosen by the government. For example, we have been learning about dialogue in Ireland because they have like a lot of history, a very interesting history, and they have something that is called like it's not national dialogue, but are dialogues that they invite like a lot of citizens, and they like do they select randomly like the people with certain characteristics, and they form these people in the topic, and then they take the decisions. So I think that something like that will be something that we need to to address. But I think that the only way that the government can not control things is someone else to take the lead or the responsibility of the methodology. If not, that's something that it's not going to happen.
Any other question, Emma?
Tatiana, you mentioned that the 10 tables of dialogues were too much, and you referenced in the 2019 incident, there were 6 dialogue questions of education, environment, peace and legality, institutions, equity and transparency. Is there one central topic that you think would be most beneficial to target going forward?
For example, that's a super good question. I think that for Colombia right now, the one of growth and equity, it's the central question for us. Because in Colombia, I don't know if it's in Canada, it's the same, but here in Colombia, we really need to address the economic part of the communities, because if you see, the armed conflict in Colombia has like a lot of roots. It's not only one, but I think that the biggest root here in Colombia is the economic inequalities. If we really like address poverty and a lot of this kind of stuff, I think that will be central. And I think for the majority of the citizens, if you talk with them, the more the biggest pain is that they don't have the economic part. So for me, the growth and economic, of course, is a very hard conversation, but I think that what we need to address that, because if not, we're not going to, like, it's a loop. The other ones are important, of course, but you need to address that and to have like some ideas and some common grounds in order to do the other topics.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. One more question here.
Again, it's about the timing or when it's appropriate to try a national dialogue, and you see it was too polarized. So in some difficult contexts, let's say South Africa, in Canada, with the indigenous, or in Rwanda, is it necessary to go first in a truth and reconciliation operation? And even truth and reconciliation, there's a notion, first there should be truth said as it was before there can be a possibility of reconciliation. And does this has to happen before any effort to have a national dialogue?
I think that you need to start for the reconciliation part. For example, in Colombia, we have the Truth Commission about like because of the peace agreement. One of the points of the peace agreement with FARC was the Truth Commission. And I think that that effort was very amazing, but because we were so polarized, a lot of people didn't like accept the results of the Truth Commission. And here in Colombia, before the truth, we really need to reconcile ourselves. And some people, like the victims, for example, some of them are like, I know that the truth is important, but I really wanted, it's like to reconcile, like to be in peace with myself and with my enemy. And it's super hard, but I think that right now we prefer like we really need the reconciliation part, because we really need to address the topic of we need to work together in a collective goal. So yes, I think that that first is like the reconciliation, and before that it's like the trust part, like the building the trust. And to that you need to be very transparent, and it's not like it's something that you can do parallel, but you need to be very aware of those things. For example, in what we do in FIP, we have been seeing that the trust part and the recognition as human beings are the first things that you need to do in any process, and then you can do anything that you need. But what you said, it's super important. I really think that for to be ready for a national dialogue, if it was the perfect world, you need to first do some work about reconciliation, some work about transparency, and some work about building trust. And I think that that's something that it's easier, because if not, you're sitting in the table saying that guy or that girl, it sucks, you know. It's they're going to tell me lies.
Hmm. Thank you, Tatiana. Trust, truth, forgiveness, reconciliation, all those terms, these languages are important for our time. And I think you have identified the key aspect of before we move to a reconciliation, truth, or whatever we want to do in terms of dialogue and peace building. Do we have the fundamental foundation of, do we see each other as human beings? Do we humanize each other? Or are we sitting in our polarized corners and dehumanizing and sort of spewing hate and propaganda and dehumanization in the process? So how do we do national dialogue without having that basic foundation, basic decency of seeing each other as a human beings, seeing each other with respect and dignity? So those are the key aspects we have to start from in order to travel through the long journey of truth and reconciliation, and ultimately also facilitating dialogue. If we don't see each other as a human beings, there is no point sitting at the same table, because we are not treating each other as a human beings. So the fundamental foundation is, how do we see each other? That do you see me as a human being, and do I see you as a human being? That is lacking in our world today, and we have to work towards that end to make sure that we are humanizing each other. We have passed the hour mark, 1 hour mark. We kept you for an hour. Tatiana, this is the first part of our ongoing conversation, and I'm delighted to have met you and have this new friendship and new relationship that we will be working in solidarity working together, working in the spirit of coming together and making sure that our humanity stays intact regardless of ethnicity, religion, political ideology, class, economic status, gender, whatever it might be. So our task is not to make sure that we see each other as a human beings. And this is a great honor to have you from Bogota. And you have extended an open invitation to everybody to come to Colombia and see
Yes, please.
what you are doing. And I look forward to meeting you in person, and some of the students might get in touch with you. I will share your contact with the
Yes, please.
participants and get in touch with you. And I am grateful, and I've learned a lot from you, and I continue to connect with you and with your organization so we can learn from each other and to heal this troubled world, to make sure that we have the capacity, the humanity to come together and work. Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye. Thank you. Gracias.